chapter is based in character analysis and style. We have basic introduction to characters in Canto number 3, and then we will focus on Belinda and Baron and certain styles. Now, if we talk about that, why and how do we read a story or a text of a poem, it is basically a subjective experience, because what we already have in our mind, the existing knowledge of our, as a reader, existing knowledge that we have can hinder and enhance our ability to understand a situation, a written piece, or a story, or for that matter, in this case, this poem as well. We will evolve around our own biases, our own subjectivity. We may be very neutralized as well. It is all sorts of possibilities are available over there. And if we try to character analyze any character within the poem, in such as in this poem Belinda or Baron, we have to take into consideration in the particular period of the history in which it all of it was happening. So we have to take the common traits and common tendencies of that particular age in order to look for the dimensions of a character, that how and why the character evolves or reacts or acts that way. So that is called critical analysis or evaluation of character analysis, and that is what we need to learn over here. Now, the question that is being asked over here, what is the character analysis? It is the process of evaluating a specific traits of characters who figure in the text. The characters can be major players in the story or the minor ones. They are involved in uh, certain conflicts that they face, and they add to the plot analysis as well. They change the plot, or they keep it the simple as well. So we have to describe and present their emotions and actions both in isolation and collectively as well. And Canto number 3, may we have two major characters, Belinda and Baron. They take the center stage, and they lead the entire plot of this section of the poem. Baron acts and Belinda responds. Action triggers response. So action and reaction is being discussed over here, and of course we have mock epic tendencies and characteristics behind it. So we can see that action and reaction, they are being evaluated as well. So in particular, a negative action elicits a countermeasure that can be equally harsh or just the contrary positive. It ultimately rests on how the action is viewed. Here, Pop cleverly presents Baron's action not as an altogether negative, certainly not as constituting a heinous rape, but as arising out of infatuation with the beautiful woman. Like I've told you a zillion of times already, that of course this rape is not an actual physical assault, but it's the possession of a lock of a hair, in terms of that the man has infatuation, or maybe the boy is attracted to Belinda and he wants to carry a souvenir as a priceless possession in his hands. So we have a mixed reaction from, or a response from Belinda, which is in between awe and anger, along with inner satisfaction of because she's being appreciated and looked. Everybody wants to get noticed, and in that hypocritical society of 18th century, the neoclassical society, it was all about fashion and being noted, as we have already seen in the description that people used to go at great lengths to get ready to be part of those kitty parties, or that coffee parties, or those Hampton courts and everything. So it was all about pop and show कि कौन कितना ज़्यादा दिखा सकता है. So Belinda's character also showcases her real character, that she does like being noticed and appreciated. So she is inwardly enjoying the attention that she's getting from the admirer, that is Baron. And for the sake of the hollow society, the fake society, she has to sob, sigh, and scream and show a sense of outrage in that case. So this again, this introduction is given in this handout for you to think about the society, Baron and Belinda, and their inner feelings as well. So one by one, we'll take a look at, on only a bird's view will be given about each character over here that we need to understand. First character that we are going to talk about is Belinda, and Belinda is inspired from a real life character, that is Arabella Farmer, who hailed from Catholic family known to Pope and his lifelong friend John Carroll. Arabella was a victim of a real life rape. Now, the only difference between The real and real वो आप देखते हैं ना आजकल REEL real and REAL real. So in this case our real is REEL real is Belinda and real is our female character Arabella who actually went through this rape. In 1711, Pope's friend John Kyle relative Robert Lord Peter caused a serious quarrel by snipping a lock of Miss Arabella Farmer's hair, Belinda in the poem. Carl requested Pop to write a humorous poem to laugh the families out of their anger, and Pop obliged him writing The Rape of the Lock. The first two cantos were written in 1712. Again, they are giving you the background, and later, after the incident, as requested by John, with the sole objective to bring about reconciliation between two feuding families. Thus, Arabella was the historical inspiration for Pop and made her the heroine of this poem. फिर वही victim वाला card चल रहा है and Pop turned the real-time misfortune of Arabella into a heroic comical poem, fearing that his poem might further hurt Arabella, the real-life heroine victim, by adding insult to injury. Pop wrote a dedicatory letter to Arabella Fermor, prefacing the 1714 edition. So he wrote for the clarity purposes कि वो किस तरह से और क्यों लिख रहा है. He claimed that the poem was intended only to divert a few young ladies who have good sense and good humor enough to laugh not only at their sex says little unguarded follies but at their own as well. So Belinda thus serves Pop to criticize or satirize the foolishness of aristocratic, privileged, high society young women of 18th century society, and particularly for their vanity, hypocrisy, and triviality. Baron, on the contrary, this is the pseudonym for the historical Robert Lord Peter, the young gentleman in Pop's social circle, who offended Arabella Fermor and her family by cutting a lock of her hair. As stated earlier, Pop was commissioned by his friend John to write a humorous poem to give it a laughing matter without offending either of them. So Baron he did take an action, and he did not condemn it. He just wanted to expose the inane and juvenile actions of the lords and the vanity and the hypocrisy of the ladies of 18th century who were belonging to aristocratic and bureaucratic families, right? Baron has no worthy quality to have a worthy stature as an antagonist, though he is made the antagonist of the poem. And I hope you've understood by now that to become a villain in the story, you have to have something magnificent, just like Saturn, or you should have some overpowering power in it. And Baron has nothing like that. He doesn't have to offer anything that is making him stand out. He's just there because he has done something that the society and the pressures that comes with the society does not approve. His stealthy action is far removed from any act of heroism and manly courage. Pop uses the incident to expose the shallowness that surfaces in the upper classes enjoying their wealth, status, and leisure. So, female characters they represent vanity, hypocrisy, and triviality. Male characters they are all focused in status, wealth, and leisure. Then we have Clarissa. She's the only character with a brain. She's among the many ladies who is attending the Hampton Court party. So surprisingly, she lends the Baron a pair of scissors when he's fumbling to reach Belinda's to cut off her hair. But at the same time, Clarissa, in later canto number 5, she emerges as a wise woman who gives a moralizing lecture to patch up the rift between Belinda and Baron. Effectively, she becomes the voice of Pope. So she's a mouthpiece for Pope as well. So this character is a dual character. It appears in third canto in a different shadow or light, and in canto 5 it appears differently. She alone has the ability to discern that beauty is transient, frail, beauty must decay, and then conquerity is ultimately self-defeating, and one must cultivate good humor and laugh at human fallacies or follies. Sorry. Her name Clarissa is from Latin clarissima, that means the most famous, and suggests that illustrious and clarity of vision. And in Canto 3, her role is opposite of what she's going to do in Canto 5, that we have already known. So she ridicules Belinda and the host of ladies with her that their sense of outrage over such a trivial incident is nothing but an act of juvenile reaction, an act of stupidity. Then we have sylphs. The sylphs are the guardian spirits of the air designed to protect virgins and their chastity. The four sylphs and a gnome. Ariel, Belinda's guardian sylph, who oversees an army of invisible protective deities. Brillante, the sylph who is assigned to guard Belinda's earrings. Momentilla, the sylph who is assigned to guard Belinda's watch. And Crispissa, the sylph who is assigned to guard Belinda's favorite lock. And Embriel, the chief gnome who travels to the cave of spleen and returns with bundles of sighs and tears to aggravate Belinda's vexation. Embriel, who comes from after Ariel leaves to take care of Belinda, is a melancholy gnome who receives horrible noises, tears, sorrows, and griefs from the Queen of Bad Tempers. He pours his magic substances over Belinda, magnifying her rage and sorrow. So, magical क्या कहना चाहिए incidences are also being incorporated in order to exaggerate the tears of terror that are heard in the last lines of the canto 3, and we have multiple sylphs protecting multiple places, so these are supernatural beings, right? So we do have a supernatural touch to the poem as well, making it elevated style, invocation of muse. The poet is using epic characters. Now he's not using armies or etc., but this is also like an army of angels, right? An army of sylphs, in which we have Ariel, Briante, Momentilla, Chryspra and Embriel. तो ये सारे जो characters हैं, ये सारे जो sylphs हैं, वो protectors हैं, like an army people. Then we have another character that is Thelestris. Belinda's friend named Stand for the Queen of Amazons represents the historical Gertrude Morley, a friend of Pop's and a wife of Sir George Brown. She eggs Belinda on in her anger and demands that her lock be returned. ये later होता है क्योंकि story में आपको बता चुकी है इसलिए हमें पता होना चाहिए. And then Sir Plume is there. He is the beau of Thalestris, who makes an ineffective challenge to the Baron. He represents the historical Sir George Brown, a member of Pope's social culture. So you do understand that all these characters they come from real life, and they represent certain follies and vices of the society. Some of them are very strong characters, and some of them are very vicious and weak characters. So all of that has been discussed. So this is what we needed to know about the characters. Now, the character analysis is being done for Belinda, Baron, and I think Clarissa, which is okay, Ariel, because that's the protector. So, that is important that we need to discuss as well. So, we'll just quickly look at how character analysis are conducted. Belinda is a wealthy, beautiful woman. She belongs to nobility and royalty. Her beauty has been able to attract Baron, who is infatuatious or attracted, and he wants to snip off her lock of hair. Now, Pop uses language. He says, if to her share some female errors fall, look on her face and you will forget them all. So this couplet represents the awe and sense of mesmerizement that or mesmerizing sense is being represented by Pope in words where Baron has looked at the girl and he cannot take his eyes off. Other attribute to her beauty almost to the point of exonerating Baron's action. Pop satirizes 18th century society moralistic stand that women honor can be violated even if it is an innocuous act such as cutting a ringlet of Belinda's lovely dresses. The shock and awe of Belinda and the woman appears puerile and immature because cutting off a lock is not the same as raping of a woman. Pop, without overly saying that it is not a heinous act, makes the point that since Belinda is ravishingly beautiful, the desire to possess a lock of her hair cannot be viewed as an immoral act. That is the exaggeration, that is the mock that he is using over here. This is Pop's ingenious way of bringing rapprochement between two fighting families, कि वो इसको इस तरह का टच देने की कोशिश कर रहा है, वो इस तरह से उसको न्यूट्रलाइज करने की कोशिश कर रहा है कि वो एग्रीवेट ना हो. Pop subtly introduces Ariel, the chief guardian of self, to warn her of a lurking danger or to her virginity, and that he is there to protect her. The fact that Belinda does not take Ariel's warning seriously is seen when she exquisitely dresses and goes to mingle with peer groups of lords and ladies in Hampton's court. अब देखिए Belinda already knows, her protector has already told her that you are in danger, but somehow deep down under, she is looking for that danger. She does want to be with a man, she does want to be appreciated, she does want to be looked at. So, this mingleness, this willingness showcases her character to be a human. She does not want to be a hypocrite, she does not want to follow the so called virtues of the societies which are being, laid in front of her. She just wants to be herself. She loves socializing with people in her class, and she is not bothered about any warnings that she has got from Ariel. Ariel's early warning and the vial of sobs and sighs and sorrows that Embryo, the genome, pours later on, does not affect her response to Baron's action. वो बैरेंस के जो एक्शन है या जो उसकी अप्रोच है या वो जो उसको अप्रोच कर रहा है वो उसको पसंद आ रहा है. और हम ऐसा भी कह सकते हैं, वी कैन ऑल्सो टेक बेलिंडा एज ए करेक्टर दैट इज representing the feelings of Pop himself, that he does want to enjoy this confusion and this approach, and he does want to criticize the hypocrisy of the society as well through the character of Belinda. Belinda is a confused character. Dili Dil mein she wants this admiration, and on the contrary, once her lock of hair is cut, she yells, screams, and does everything in her power to convince the society that she is affected by her, which in reality is not the case. They are simply hypocritical manifestations of 18th century social society norms that are presented as dictated uh, by the supernatural powers like sylphs and gnomes. Belinda covertly relishes Baron's infatuations, and all the sighs and sorrows are artificial, engineered by gnome. Ariel, who has the duty to protect her virginity, recognizes there is really no sense of wounded pride in Belinda over the Baron's passion. On the contrary, she loves that attention being paid to her beauty that satisfies her vanity. Ariel gives up her assignment or assigned duty to protect her. And in these lines, we have already looked at it. ये Canto 3 की ही lines है. Just in that instant, anxious Ariel sought the close recess of a virgin's thought as one nosegay in her breast reclined. He watched the ideas rising in her mind. Sudden, he viewed, in spite of her of all her art, an earthly lover lurking at her heart. Amazed, confused, he found his power expired, resigned to fate, and with a sign retired. Now, Belinda is the heroine of the poem as she is the cause and the prime mover of all the action. She is able to move the entire plot of the story from one point to another. She is the central character, almost like Helen of Troy, whose face, it is said, launched 1,000 ships and who was fairer than the evening air, clad in the beauty of the thousand stars. This comparison stops here, but she has no quality to make her claim the status of a hero of an epic poem. Right now, we're going back to epic conventions, and she does not have that status, but she displays some qualities indirectly. Her quality to okay, but she has no quality to make her claim the status of a hero of an epic poem. She displays no heroic quality. Her powers in the card games amounts to registering an early win over Baron. Look at the contrast. अब जो poet है, Pope has incorporated this contrast that although this is an heroic epic, this is a mock epic, but हमारी जो हीरोइन है, हमारा जो मेन करेक्टर है, जो प्रोटैगनिस्ट है, वो इतना मैग्निफिसेंट नहीं है. उसके पास कोई ऐसी कोई extraordinary quality नहीं है. Yes, she is beautiful. Yes, she won the first game, and but that is all. She's not like Helen of Troy or any other epic warrior that are usually found in epic battles and epic contrasts. So we have a heroine in a place of a hero. Remember, this is a mock epic poem. She's an attractive young woman and she's vain about her looks, far removed from the classical hero known for his strength and power. So she is shallow. She is fake. She is hypocritical. शी इज़ एक्सप्लिसिट, वो ज़ाहिरी चीज़ों में ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टेड है rather than the inner beauty. Her power lies in her beauty, manifest in the lovely tresses that the Baron wants to cut and preserve. Is she chaste? Again, for all outward purposes, she is seen hurt and offended by the violation of her honor, but deep within she is not, and she only feigns anger. Pop was given the task of bringing about the reconciliation between the two families, and hence what he did, he portrayed Belinda as a softened and muted character. She displays no genuine anger, and artificial outbursts of sighs and sorrows are more of Embriel's making than hers. Because Embriel is a celestial being, it's a magical being who brings sorrows and sighs. और बिलिंडा उनको एक्सरसाइज तो करती है लेकिन वो एक्चुअली बिलिंडा के हार्ट से नहीं आ रही, वो एम्ब्रियल के मैजिक से आ रहे हैं. Her displays of heroism is limited to playing cards, a far cry from the battlefield, where classical hero reveals his awesome superior fighting powers prowess over the enemy forces he confronts. Unlike classical hero of the epic stranding like a colossus, Belinda is here reduced to a heroine, whining, pretending to be hurt and wounded. Belinda is capricious, impulsive, and mercurial and hides her innate um, concupiscence, which is shyness, under a false pretense of moral and behavioral norms expected of 18th century women. Now, there are many words written over here that you might not remember, but I'll emphasize that at least impulsive can be remembered, pretentious could be remembered, whining could be remembered. These words are important to establish her character as a weak and vile character, which is a pretend character, which does not do what her hearts tell her to do. She is only acting out of character, which is given to her by the society to follow. Then we have another character, that is the character of Baron. Now he's based on Lord Peter, that we have already understood. And if we recall the classical epic, the Iliad, we have from the history that a single action that triggers the mighty war is when Trojan prince Paris elopes with the Greek beauty Helen. So, thus, Helen was responsible for the epic war between Trojans and the Greeks when Ravan abducted Sita. Now, this is a reference to Hindi mythology. The war ensued between Ram and Ravan. Here, Baron's foolish action triggers the conflict between Belinda and Baron. तो जो सीता और राम और रावण के बीच में हुआ या ग्रीक एंड ट्रोजन प्रिंस के बीच में हुआ, उसी तरह का एक एक्शन इधर हुआ है, लेकिन ये उतना सीरियस नहीं है. इट इज़ नॉट एज इन्फ्लिक्टिंग एज गौरी एज रावण एंड राम और ग्रीक ब्यूटी एंड प्रिंस of Trojan. He falls in love with Belinda's beauty. Besotted and captivated by her beauty, he rashly snips her lock and refuses to give it back, thereby bringing about a conflict between two families. Since his initial attempts to win over Belinda do not succeed, he settles on raping her lock. So he tried to approach her. So what he does, he cannot rape her, he cannot uh, um possess her, he cannot take her away. So what he does in retaliation, अपनी फ्रस्ट्रेशन में उसके बालों का एक हिस्सा ले लेता है एंड वो उसी को अपनी ट्राइम्फ समझता है, वो अपनी सक्सेस समझता है. एंड वाइल हिज कटिंग ऑफ अ लॉक इज नॉट इक्वेटेड विद द रेप इन द मॉडर्न सेंस, as in the context of poem it means theft or pillaging. Pop is still using the word to connotate injustice and unequal state that he has taken when what he had no right to take. The fact that Baron is only referred by his title, revealing the masculinity and his station, but nothing else, or else is satirically figured as the knight. The height of courtly masculinity allows Pope to metamonically cast a kind of witty judgment overall to the noblemen and to question the contemporary assumptions that they were the intellectual and moral leaders of the day. I understand the lines are written in a quite difficult manner, but they are written very well. I can explain it to you in simple words. What Baron character is posing over here, it is being used by the poet Pope as a mouthpiece to talk about the noblemen of that age, the hypocritical aristocratic men of that age, that they were all about their titles, their money. Other than that, they had no inner feelings, they had nothing to offer to the women, or otherwise, they were just names. And you might have seen this in our society, in any society for that matter as well, that people respect or talk to you on the basis of your designation. They want to be with you, they want to be associated with you. If you can pompous or develop or enhance their visibility in the society. And these masculine people, these masculine men, they were not, in the poem, the poet has used the word knights, right? He has used the courtly man. He's using the masculine words to represent them because they are noble men and they have nothing more to offer. They pretend to be the moral leaders, they pretend to be intellectuals, but they are not that witty after all. So Pop is using his witty judgment to talk about these moral, so-called moral and intellectual readers. Again, Pop is not presenting any valiant hero as a worthy of antagonist for Belinda. Just as Belinda as a heroine is given the pride of place of solely for her beauty without any heroic quality to go with it, the Baron has no chivalric attribute that could give him an exalted status. So in battlefields, we have equal partners to fight against each other. If you remember in Paradise Lost, I told you that Saturn is only worthy of being called an antagonist because he has the ability, he had the courage to actually challenge God. वो God को challenge कर रहा था और उसके पास वो सब कुछ उसको पोएट ने एग्जिबिट करने के लिए, उसके चैलेंज को एग्जिबिट करने के लिए इतनी लंबी लंबी डिस्क्रिप्शंस भी दी ताकि ये क्लैरिफाई हो सके कि दे आर गॉड एंड सैटर्न आर ऑफ इक्वल वैल्यू, दे हैव समथिंग टू ऑफर टू बिकम राइवल्स ऑफ ईच अदर. नाउ इफ यू टॉक अबाउट बैरन एंड बेलिंडा, दे डू नॉट हैव एनीथिंग epic, extraordinary, but because this is a mock epic जिसमें exaggeration है, तो अगर बिलिंडा को benefit of the doubt उसकी ब्यूटी पर दिया जा रहा है, तो बैरन को भी उसके बस एक नाइट होने पे, एक नोबल मैन, एक पैसे वाले आदमी होने पे उसको ये स्टेटस दिया जा रहा है कि वो यहाँ पर एंटागनिस्ट का स्टेटस ले सकता है. So, in keeping with mock epic genre, Belinda and Baron's character have no heroic traits, and despite belonging to gentry and enjoying the higher status of the society as aristocrat nobility, Pop deflates their status as epic characters. The seemingly trivial episode shows the triviality of court life as lived by the nobility. A foolish and juvenile action is shown to trigger a courtly war. The war here, as in the Iliad, a war of erotic passion, but in the case of the Trojan War, it was wounded pride, while here a whimsical and mischievous action sparks the fight, and ironically, even the fight an infantile and immature. Whenever you're going to talk about the rape of the lock, you're always going to be expected of to talk about the Iliad, the Trojan War, or maybe Raman. Ravan can be referred as well. You should come up with the allusions that are given in the poem. Why am I reading from it? I've already told you this, but I'm reading the text itself so that you can see how a paragraph could be arranged, how certain thoughts should be arranged in one compact paragraph. Throughout the poem, Pope uses the tradition of epic poetry, poems about serious conflicts and heroism to show comparison, the triviality, hollowness, and conceitedness of court life. Unlike epic poems with a serious and lofty theme about heroism and brave warriors, Pop's poem is about insignificant incident about the loss of a lock of a hair to institute a closer comparison between the intensity of battle and the triviality of court culture. So court culture is being directly targeted by the poet in terms of the intensity and seriousness that could be there in epic poetry and real life war battlefields. तो ये कोर्ट कल्चर उन वॉर बैटलफील्ड से कुछ कम नहीं है, लेकिन इसकी जो इंटेंसिटी और मैनिफेस्टेशंस हैं वो उससे डिफरेंट है. The Baron's clumsy use of scissors is a contrast to the dexterous use of swords in the classical epic. अब classical epic में हमारे पास swords होते हैं, magical powers होते हैं, लेकिन हमारे पास mock epic में हमारे पास एक silver shining two-edged scissor है. ठीक है. The battle of cards on the green table highlights the contrast between noble activities of Homeric men and the vain activities performed by these courtly lords and ladies. सो ये पैराग्राफ आपको आपका पूरा एक टेंडेंसी, एक डायरेक्शन दे सकता है दैट हाउ टू गो अबाउट ऑल ऑफ इट. आई होप यहाँ तक आपको ये बात समझ आ रही है कि करेक्टर एनालिसिस कैसे लिखते हैं. ये भी बहुत थोड़ा लिखा हुआ है, इसमें टेक्स्ट और होना चाहिए सो दैट यू कैन हैव एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग. देन द थर्ड करेक्टर इज एरियल. Now we have already studied in earlier chapters that classical epic narratives, they do have certain characteristics. The intervention of the supernatural elements in the lives of men and women is an important aspect of an epic. जैसे हमारे पैराडाइज लॉस्ट में भी था, फेरी क्वीन में भी था, और अब हमारे रेप ऑफ द लॉक में भी वी हैव स्पिन्स. ठीक है, वो सारे जो सुपर नेचुरल guardians हैं. The point to note here is that these guardian sylphs are not visible to the characters. They are airy, incorporeal beings believed to have powers to affect the course of human events. So you see, they are there, they are guiding lights of the characters, but they are not there in reality. Ariel is the chief of selves, he is the guardian self, and as Canto 3 opens, he warns Belinda through a dream that he is given the responsibility to protect her beauty and chastity. He warns her to be careful of men, beware of men, and tries to ward off danger that would happen to her in near future. He calls off his army Osphils to guard her, but when Baron is about to scissor her lock, Ariel discovers an earthly lover lurking at her heart, and that she is not as chaste as she should be. At the vital moment, he does not come to protect her. Ariel, who is tasked with protecting Belinda's morality by ensuring her chastity, abandons her responsibility. Ariel's withdrawal reinforces Pope's contention that the courtly lords and ladies do not have any genuine respect for chastity and morality. This trivial incident is example of laxity in their approach. So Pope has used this character Ariel to showcase the hypocrisy of that age, that even these so-called best laid out rules for morality, they are fake, they are hypocritical, and they do not have strong um, backings, right? And style we have already talked about, and the picture of society has been talked about, and mock epic and heroic epic has been talked about. You can definitely read. And then, certain glossary items are given. For example, what's a gnome? One of the fabled race of dwarf like creatures who live underground to guard treasures. And so you can annotate difficult words from here to your understanding of this section. So we have just learned about the style of the poem, that is written in couplets, heroic couplets. We talked about mock epic, heroic style, and the character analyses have been discussed so far.